G'day cocktail lovers, I hope you've been keeping well. Hey, how about we, together, explore some Mead cocktails? Because the 1st of August, which is just after I'm uploading this video, is Mead Day. And I was going to let that slide, but I foolishly had forgotten. Mrs. Angry, back in the 90s, used to make a bunch of wines and mead. And I have a bottle of mead that she made in 1992. So this is like a 30-year vintage. This is class AF. And she actually made the ingredients she made it with was honey, because obviously, in case you didn't know, mead is essentially fermented honey. So it's got honey, sorrel, balm, mint, mace, rosemary, sugar, yeast, and lemon. And this is really good. And so I decided to look up a couple of mead-based cocktails, or cocktails that feature mead, and I'm going to actually make two because they're very different. They've got very different profiles. One seems very light and sweet and is a shaken cocktail, and one is a darker cocktail, which is a stirred cocktail, and I'm really intrigued to try them side by side because I feel like they're showing off very different styles of drink. So I want to see what Mead brings to both of these. So I'm going to get into them. The first one has a very bad name. I got this off the Difford's website, and this one was actually invented by Simon Difford, who runs the site, and he thought he was doing a pun when he called this Mediocre. That's a terrible name for a cocktail. Obviously, Simon Difford knows a lot more about cocktails than me, but this just makes me think I know more about marketing than him, because calling a cocktail mediocre, that's terrible, even if you think it's a pun. And I love puns, but it sounds quite good. So that's the first one we're going to make. This recipe calls for 1.5 ounces of white rum. I'm going to use an Australian rum from the Beanley Distillery in Queensland, which I think is the oldest rum distillery in Australia. Not the most famous, but I think it is the oldest. So first up, 1.5 ounces or 45 mils of white rum. Now comes the mead, and we are going to add 30 mils or 1 ounce of mead. We're also adding some pineapple juice to this cocktail, freshly opened as opposed to freshly pressed. Look, if you have the wherewithal to create fresh pineapple juice, go for it. I find that a really difficult thing to do. So this is like 100% juice, no sugar added, etc, etc. So I'm going to add, it's just over an ounce, about 1.25 ounces or around 35 mils to 37 mils of pineapple juice. The Difford's recipe is said to use a honey syrup, but also said to use a vanilla infused rum, which I don't have. So I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to use a vanilla syrup as the sweetener. So this is just 1/4 ounce or 7.5 mils of our sugar syrup. The recipe on the Difford site called for a dash of vanilla bitters, which I don't have, and I think I put enough vanilla in with the vanilla syrup, but a little dash of bitters. So we'll see, we've got rum and pineapple juice. I'm going to go with Bitterman's Tiki bitters, which is a lovely little sort of bitters, but you go with the bitters you have. I think a little bit of bitters to cut the sweetness would be good, even if you just use Angostura. I'm going to use 1 dash of the Tiki bitters. This is a shaken cocktail, so we add ice to our glass, put the shaker together, bang it in hard, shake that for about 10 seconds. Shit, I almost knocked my mead over. Let's just shake. I'm going to strain that into a chilled coupe. There you go. That is looking lovely and bright, but rather than taste this now, I'm going to quickly make the next cocktail because I want to taste them side by side. This one's a very different style of cocktail, and the recipe I originally saw had a lot of French components, and the French name for it was Le Garde de Nuit, which stands for the Night's Watch. And I just thought, for fun, I'm going to, instead of using the French ingredients, I'm going to make this all Australian. So instead of it being a Le Garde de Nuit, this will definitely be the Night's Watch. The first ingredient I'm using is brandy. The original recipe I saw called for cognac. You may use cognac if you like, but just a good quality brandy. This is from Adelaide, the 23rd Street Distillery. This is their Prime 5 brandy. This is their upmarket brandy. They make a few different ones. So the first step is 1.5 ounces or 45 mils of brandy. I'm also going to add the same amount of sweet vermouth. This is again another Australian product, Mead and I. The French product was Dubonnet, or you use another red aromatized wine. Basically, red sweet vermouth is what we're going for. Whatever you have on hand, I'm using this one. So it's 45 mils or 1.5 ounces of sweet vermouth. Here comes our mead. We're going to add 3/4 of an ounce, which is about 22.5 mils. So, of course, I'm going to say, while this is a homemade mead, homemaking mead is quite difficult because you actually have to ferment it for, I think, years to actually make a proper mead. So you can get commercially produced mead in most bowl shops, so don't kill yourself thinking you have to make mead at home. You can buy it, but yeah, we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce, about 22.5 mils of mead. The final touch is just a splash of Gentian liqueur or something similar. So 5 mils or a bar spoon essentially. This is my Australian alternative for Gentian liqueurs, Ochre Gold from the fabulous people in South Australia at, it's not called the Ochre, it's the Applewood Distillery. I love their stuff. This is one of my favourite liqueurs. So it's just a splash, so we're doing 5 mils or about a bar spoon of some sort of Gentian style liqueur. This is a stirred cocktail, so I'm adding ice to the glass, using Gaz Regan's magic finger to stir. Doesn't need a lot of dilution, but we want it chilled. Feel free to use a spoon if you don't have a cask of Gaz Regan's finger. Finally, I'm going to strain this into a different coupe so I can tell the drinks apart, even though they are completely different looking drinks. I just like the idea of doing them in different glasses. If I had a pineapple, I'd probably garnish the Mediocre cocktail with some pineapple, but I don't, so it's going naked. And for fun, for the night's watch, I decided to use a maraschino cherry. Now, taste test time. This will be lighter, I think, so I'll taste it first. Well, that's delightful. The mead is bringing a really nice note to the white rum and the pineapple juice. I thought the pineapple juice might overpower it, and it really doesn't. It's a surprisingly well-balanced cocktail. Very light though, very summery. I drink it any time of the year. Now this one leans more towards the sort of winter style with the brandy, but let's have a quick taste of that. Oh, that's got all sorts of sort of spice notes to it. I think even just that 5 mils of the herbal liqueur, the Ochre Gold in my case, around the world you might use something like Suze or yellow chartreuse. That 5 mils really brings an interesting note to the aromatized wine, the cognac, the brandy, the vermouth, whatever you've put in. Wow! Yep, they're showing off really different sides of mead. It's almost like I've done summer and winter. I didn't even think of that ahead of time, but now I'm in the middle of winter, Northern Hemisphere's in the middle of summer. So yeah, summer, winter. Me, personally, I don't limit myself. I'm having both. So I hope you're having as good a time as me. I'm going to have a really good time finishing these. So wherever you are, look, honestly, just take care of yourself. Take care of people around you. Until I see you again, cheers.